Hi viewers and welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode of the Understanding FreeCAD series. Today we're going to be looking at the part design and creating a simple tyre with a simple tread. Now the tyre isn't really the most complex object of this design, it's more the tread. In this video we'll be doing the simple tread, and then in the next video we'll be moving on to something a bit more complex and using other workbenches to allow us to add that complex shape to our tyre. So I hope you're enjoying these videos and let's have a look at these techniques. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. To start this tutorial, we're starting off in the part design in FreeCAD, and I'm going to create a new document. We're on the task tab, so we can create a body, or we can use the create new body and make it active from the toolbar. I'm just going to create a new body, and then we're going to create a new sketch. We're looking to create the profile of one half of the tyre, so we're going to be looking down on the XZ plane. I can select it from here if I want, and let's hit OK. So this is from the front of the object, and we're looking to create the profile. We're going to be taking this axis and using that to mirror over. So if I create a simple profile in here, I need some tangency on one side of the object. So I'm going to place a line in here. I've used the line here, basic sketch line. I'm going to either press the right mouse button or hit the escape key to bring my mouse pointer back. And take this line and convert it to construction geometry. This means that I can use this to decide how far away from this center point my profile is going to be. Remember that we need a hole in the middle of the tyre to allow for the hub to go through. We're going to be sketching on this side of this vertical line and then mirroring over this. First of all, we're going to get some base measurements in. So I'm going to take this point and place them a distance away. About 200 millimeters. That means that I now know what I have on screen is at the correct scale that I want. If I started sketching then added the constraint and we was at a too small a scale, then it would start malforming some of the geometry and we would have to readjust all the geometry to fit. Let's make sure that this points upwards. So this is where the hole will be for going through our tyre. We're going to make this some distance away from here as well. So let's take this point and this point. Let's place it, say, 150 millimeters away. So now we've got our base dimensions in. So our hub is going to be 2 times 200 millimeters, and the depth of the tyre is going to be 2 times 150. Because remembering that this is the profile, we're going to rotate this around 360 degrees around this area to create our object. Let's come back in and start sketching. Once we start sketching, you'll be able to see how this is going to evolve. So let's come in and start laying down some lines. The first lines we're going to do is take 2 lines here and here and join them up like so. Hit escape and make these equal. I'm going to set the height of one of these to about 30 millimeters. Let's pull this aside. Then we're going to take this point and this point of the construction geometry and make sure they're in line. We're going to take this line here and add some length to it and set that as 12 millimeters. So at the moment we have this shape. And this is the start of the wall of our tile. And I'm going to come up and pull this line out and set some height across here. But I'm going to use this point and this point and set the height this way. I'm going to say 475. The reason why I've done this gives me the height of the wheel and also the inner radius of this wheel. So we've got the outer radius and the inner radius. And that's going to come in and place an endpoint and rim point arc and bring this right up to the top. And just curve this out and touch this line. So I've got the auto constraints on. Look down here, I've got the auto constraints on. If I touch this line here, that means I am tangent to that line. So create that arc there. We'll create the same arc on this side, but I'm not going to use the tangency against it. We're just going to create an arc like so. At the tops, you can use a line. Just place a line going across and connecting up to this vertical. I'm going to hit escape and just bring this down a tad and use this point. Again, creating a line, connect to that point. The auto constraints are on and coming over to this line here. And also I'm going to close this by clicking on this point and bringing a line down. So you can see how this is taking shape now. So when this rotates 360 degrees this way, it will create our shape. Let's start constraining this now. And click the front so we can see it. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to make sure this line is a width of say 30 millimeters. We've got these two arcs that are controlled by these 2 points. So you can see these 2 points here, move them in and out. So the arc is a big circle and these are the centers of the circle. Let's place them in vertical constraint so they're above each other. We can still move these down, so I'm going to take the top of the construction geometry and this point and put those in line as well with a horizontal constraint. So that means that won't move now. Let's set some radius of these. Let's set this one to a radius of 300. And this is where we can adjust this to see fit and set this point and this point. Make sure they're vertical to each other using a vertical constraint. So that one's locked that one down. And I'm going to take this point as well. So the same with this arc, this point, and coming in this point and do the same. So now we've got a constant width between these. It's a bit taller over here, but this is fine. We can adjust this width to say 25 just to make it more or less the same. These are still not constrained. We're going to place that point on this line and a point on line constraint. So that's now fully constrained. And we can neaten these up. So now we have our model or our profile all ready to go. Let's close that and have a look where that is. Going to use the center. So we've centered the sketch upon this plane. We're looking at the front and this is the profile that we're going to be using. Now I haven't placed any filleting in here just yet. We're going to do that in a minute after we've done the revolution. Let's go into the model and make sure the sketch is selected. Come up to part design. It's an additive feature and we do the revolution. Now it may look a bit odd at first because it's revolved along the wrong axis. So you can see this is the incorrect axis. Look at the axis, we've got vertical sketch. So it's rotated around this vertically. If I come back to the model, you can see that inside the revolution there is the sketch. I'm just going to press the space bar just to show you where that is. And I can hide that revolution. You can see what's happened. It's gone around this way rather than going this way. So all we need to do is click on the sketch, come back to the task, change this axis to horizontal sketch axis, and we get 1/2 of the wheel. The reason why I've done 1/2 is because the other side is going to be the same, so we can mirror it across once we've done the majority of this model. Let's hit OK, and let's do some extra filleting on here. Now I'm not going to use the fillet from here. I'm going to come into the sketch, double click the sketch and zoom in. We're going to take on the revolution this edge here and fillet it. So to do that, let's hide the revolution by pressing the spacebar. Come into the sketch and come up, and we can use this fillet tool here. Create a fillet between two lines. Now there are two fillet tools in here. One is a constraint preserving sketch fillet and one's a normal fillet. These work in the same way, but if I take the normal fillet, you can see some of our constraints have disappeared. For instance, if I do it over here, like so, this constraint will disappear. Hit Ctrl Z. Let's try it with the other tool, the constraint preserving sketch fillet. And take these two. And let's take these two. You can see this constraint has stayed. I'm not going to add this fillet here. I'm just going to hit Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z again. I'm just going to come in and place a fillet around here. I only want a small fillet. Now look where I'm filleting. Wherever I place the first point and then click the second point, we'll create a fillet between those. If I hit Ctrl Z and say that's fillet over here and here, we get a more deeper fillet. So I just want one that covers about that length here. I can adjust these. I've hit escape. I can adjust these. So for instance, I can move this up and down. See, we've got some constraints have been removed because these tangent constraints have been placed in. So we can take these two, just place those back in line. And we can adjust these. You can see we've got better movement now. Just going to zoom out and have a look. And we're going to take these two and place those in line, but I can see there's already a line constraint there, so that's fine. So I'm going to take this one and do the same. So those are in line. And the last one now is basically take this and add some radius on there to lock it all down. Just hit OK. Or we can change this. We've got 17.94. Let's make that 18. So now we've got that. If we come out to the task and hit close, you'll see we've got a fillet going along here. Obviously this looks a bit rough because we have on the revolution, it's actually on the body. So come to the body and hit the data. You can see we've got the revolution there. If you look at the view, come down, we've got the deviation here. Click on that deviation, just set it to 0.1 and see how that's cleaned up. So you can see what's happening here, how we're going to affect that model. Now, if we've used the deviation, it does take up CPU cycles. So it makes our workflow a bit slower because we're rendering in a higher definition. This does nothing for the output of the model. It's just the output on the screen. So now we've got this fillet going along here. I'm going to draw my attention to around here now. So we can come back into the sketch, double click the sketch, and look and decide what I want to do around here, because I want to fillet these in here as well. Again, we're going to use the constraint preserving sketch fillet and come in and just fillet those two. Hit Ctrl Z. Let's get this a bit nearer. So we've got those there. Hit escape and then we can start constraining. So for starts, I'm going to come in and set a radius of around about 20 millimeters. And that's all we needed to constrain that. Got that radius there. Now when we close and have a look at our tyre, we can see we've got a much nicer shape going on with this. And we can do some extra, say let's come in and just place a fillet along here. And this will create a fillet on that rim. Zoom in, hit escape, and just take this and set a radius. 3 millimeters. And it's still not fully constrained. You can see we've got some movement. So I'm going to make sure these 2 points are in line, and that fixes that problem. Let's hit close. So now you can see there's a small fillet on that edge there. And we're about done for one side of that tyre, but we haven't added the tread. If I take this revolution and use the create a mirror feature or part design, apply a pattern and mirrored, we can see how that's taken effect. But I don't want to do that just yet. I'm going to start adding the tread to this. At this point there's a number of routes to go along, and take you through one route. Let's cancel that. So we just got 1/2. So I want to add the tread so it curves around here. So I'm going to create another profile and then use a polar pattern. Again, we're going to be looking at the front. And when we create the sketch, what actually happens is the sketch we place along the XZ plane. So the same front plane. You can see down here XZ. Hit OK, and it places it in the middle. So that means that we'll be revolving around this middle point. So anything we add to this will revolve around the same middle point as half the tyre. So we need to add a profile on this side to start to remove material. We're going to be using a groove for that. So I'm going to come in and then use the cross section. That cross section's through our wheel, and we can start creating a sketch upon here. Let's click front. Now the sketch is going to remove material, so we need to remove material from this thickness here and the thickness here. So to do that, we need to look at the profile as though anything it covers it will remove. So the first thing I'm going to do is place a polyline, and we know that we want to remove, say, something like this across the top of the wheel. Let's hit escape and just bring this out as well. I'm going to take this all the way down here and come across and create a closed shape. So hit escape again and just connect these 2 points up. So if I groove this, what will happen is this will take material away from the top, intersecting that fillet, and we'll just remove a small amount of material along there. Let's just give it a bit more. So if I hit close, I'm just going to show you what process is. We use a groove. I've got that sketch selected, so if I come into the groove, you can see that sketch there. Come back in. What we need to do is change the axis to make sure, again, it's horizontal sketch axis. You see the material that's removed, which is no good. We need around about 3 degrees of that material. I'll click off. You can see what's happened. Let's remove that material from there. Let's just cancel that and remove material from this side as well. So we can come back into that sketch. We can see what's happening. Section view, and then I'm going to remove this line. So just hit delete and just bring this point back. If I zoom in, you may want to import some geometry from here, so I can import this fillet line and attach it to there by using the create an edge link to external geometry and just selecting that fillet line. Hit escape and use that point on that line. We'll point on line constraint. So now that's there, we can follow the outside of this, say with an arc connected into this point. So constrain it to that point, and using an arc goes around here, like so. So you can see what we're doing. Let's come up, hit escape and just bring this up and connect up those points, this point and this point. Coincident constraint, and we can start locking this down. Let's hit close first and see what's happened. So we've got that there. If I click on the sketch, select the groove, part design, create a subtractive feature, because we're moving material away, groove. Make sure the horizontal sketch axis is selected, and that we're only grooving around about 3 degrees. And then we have this here, like so. I know I haven't constrained it down, but I'm just going to hit OK. And we can come in here and constrain this if we want. So we can actually constrain this right down. It's advisable too, but for the time being, I'm just going to carry on and hit close. Now I've got this feature in here, we can mirror this multiple times across here. For that, I'm going to use the polar pattern. So make sure the groove is selected. This last item here, part design, apply a pattern, and polar pattern. We can even come in here and do filleting if we want to apply this. So you can see the polar pattern at the moment has not been applied. So we can come down, look at the axis and change this to horizontal axis again. Come down to the occurrences. You can see we've got 2 at the moment. Let's change this to 20 and click off. You can see that we've added all those around there. This is totally editable, so we can come over to OK, come down to the groove and double click at the sketch, use the cross section and come down and then delete this line, bring this all the way down and decide how much we're going to remove. So for instance, I'll take another arc, put on point constraint, bring this down, let's say about here, add this. We can add some tangency across here. Hit OK. If we want it tangent. If we don't want it tangent, then we don't have to do this. We can just use the point on point constraint. And then I'm going to bring this point up and basically place a line between those two. And make sure it's horizontal. This part we don't have to worry about whether this goes right up here or if it's down lower. It's just for removal of the material. If I hit close, we can see our wheel is forming. So my aim now is to mirror this across this side, add a staggered tread. So we'll rotate it slightly so our tread sits in here, and then fusion these together. Now you may be wondering if you can take this polar pattern and do the mirroring via that, but we can't. If we try the mirror on here, it's saying only additive and subtractive features can be transformed. So we have to now find a way of doing this without using the mirror. Now there is an option on the toolbar and this little sheep here which creates a clone. So what that allows me to do is take the body. We can come up to the part design, create clone, or click on the sheep. This clones this body and places it in the same place. What I can now do is right click and transform this, and we'll look at the top, and all we want to do is rotate this around this way. Normally the rotation increments are something like 15, so this makes it easier to rotate. I next want to stagger this, so we're going to come around, say this way, make sure there's some angle on here, and decrease the rotation increments to say 5, and just rotate these so the tread is staggered. Let's hit OK. Now we've got the two halves, but they're still not joined. Now there is a boolean feature in the part design. To use it, we need to have an active body. Now you need to use the body that you cloned from as the active body. We can change active bodies by double clicking. You can see this one has regular text now and this one is in bold. So the one in bold is the active body and the clone is the active body. So I'm going to double click the body that this was cloned from. I'm now going to come in and not select anything. So I've got nothing selected. I've just clicked on some blank space. This is important. We're now going to use the part design and boolean operations. Our active body will vanish. Make sure this is set to fuse. Click add body and select the other body. So we've selected the clone. And now these two are boolean together. If I hit OK, what you'll see is one body. If I open this up, the last feature in here is the boolean. And if I click on the boolean, we can remove the faces. So we've got two faces going across here, this one and this one, and they're basically the same. So we can click on the boolean and we can just refine that down to true, and that means that face will be removed. So as you can see, that face has been removed, and now we've got one face going around here. So when we export this, rather than two faces going across here, we now have one. It doesn't make any difference to what the model looks like, but it just reduces the faces down. Let me show you what happens when you use the clone as the active body. So I'm just going to delete that boolean. So now we've got the body and the clone. Anything I change in this body will be reflected over in the clone. If this was the active body, so I've just double clicked on this, and this is now our active body. If I go through the same process, this time I'm going to use the toolbar, boolean, and add the body, and add this one. What will happen, it'll take a while to recompute, and we're left with one side. Obviously something has gone wrong, so I'm just going to cancel that. So make sure the body that was cloned from is the active body. And we've booleaned those together and hit OK. Another option that we have this body. We can utilize the part workbench. So come over to the part workbench and we'll just collapse this body. Click on the body, come up to part and mirroring. We're going to be mirroring this over the YZ plane and hit OK. We've now mirrored that onto this side, and we can right click on that mirror and transform and just place this with a bit of rotation to allow us to change whereabouts this tread sits, and hit OK. We take both of those now, that body and the body inside, so the mirror, to span that out, control click the body inside, so those both selected, and we can do a part union along with the boolean union. And finally, click on the fusion, refine, set that to true. Now we have a part object that's been created from the body of a part design that's been mirrored. And we've got a similar effect. So that's it. That's a very simple tyre in the part design. In the next tutorial, we'll look at more complex treads utilising other workbenches, but still allowing us to use the part design to create these features. Hope you found that tutorial useful, and I hope to see you again soon. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.